If you're a remote worker and moving to Central Florida, the state is not the most important decision you are making. The most important decision you have to make is the neighborhood. And in a metro this large, where you move to is going to define if you're actually feeling your work or draining it. Today, I'm going to give you the 6 criteria that actually matter for remote workers, not what lifestyle blog posts give you. And I'm going to score those 6 criteria against the top 6 neighborhoods here in Central Florida. Stay tuned because that is going to help you make the best informed decision you can ever make. Let's do this. Before we jump into it, I wanted to let you know that I built a free remote worker neighborhood scorecard. And that scorecard is just a single matrix page where you are going to rate every 6 criteria against the places that you want to go and find exactly which place is the right fit for you and the right fit for your family. Remember, all I wanted to do is to make sure you love where you live. All right, so links in the description. Now let's hit the ground. All right, here's the framework. 6 criteria that actually matter if you work from home. Number 1, home office space. Can you actually work in this home without losing your mind? Number 2, internet infrastructure. What are the real speeds and provider options in this zip code? Number 3, co-working access, because you will not always want to work from home, and having quality co-working nearby changes how you feel about your space. Number 4, noise and environment. Quiet matters when you are on calls the entire day, right? Number 5, lifestyle and amenity density. This is what makes remote work sustainable versus soul crushing. And 6, total cost of ownership, because your remote salary is going to be the same whether you live in Lake Nona or Baldwin Park, but your monthly burnout is not. I am scoring 6 neighborhoods against all the 6 of these: Lake Nona, Winter Garden, Oviedo, Baldwin Park, Winter Park, and Claremont. One of these is going to surprise you. Stay for the neighborhood matrix at the end, and that is where all 6 scores are going to come together. All right, so let me set the context before the criteria because the numbers tell you why this video exists. As for the first quarter of 2026, approximately 32.6 million Americans, roughly 22% of the workforce, work remotely in some shape and form. Remote job postings increased 20% quarter over quarter in Q1 2026, according to Flex Jobs. More than 85% of workers now say remote flexibility matters more than salary when evaluating a job offer. This is a structural shift and is not reversing. At the same time, Florida saw more than 700 new residents every single day in 2024. The most common Florida to Florida move? Miami to Orlando. Orlando was the #1 inbound destination for relocating Floridians, and the broader movement of remote workers from high-cost states, New York, California, New Jersey, Illinois, has been one of the primary drivers of Central Florida's housing demand for the last 4 years. The calculation is not complicated at all. No state income in Florida, that's massive, right? High 5- and 6-figure remote salaries that follow the employee, not the employer. Lower housing costs than the coastal metros they're living. Sunshine, no winter. And the question now is not whether Central Florida makes sense for remote workers. It obviously does, right? The question is which specific neighborhood maximizes your daily working life and your quality of life simultaneously. Criteria number 1. Surveys consistently show that approximately 70% of remote workers say having a dedicated home office is one of their top housing requirements. And yet, most buyers do not evaluate home office space as a distinct criteria when they're comparing communities. They look at the total square footage, not at whether the floor plan actually supports a focused work from home environment. Here is what a remote worker actually needs in a home office. First, a dedicated room with a door, right? Not an open loft, not a desk in the corner of the living room, a door. Because you have calls, you will need visual separation from whether it's happening in the rest of your household, and the psychological transition of closing a door at the end of the workday matters for mental health more than most people realize until they have lived without it. Second, natural light. Windowless offices in the interior of a home are productively killers over time. And third, enough square footage for dual monitors, a camera setup, a storage for equipment, and budget a minimum of 100 to 150 square feet for a functional single occupant home office. All right. What does this mean in Central Florida communities? New construction, which is available in Lake Nona, Horizon West, Winter Garden, Oviedo, often has dedicated flex rooms or den spaces in the floor plan that work well as home offices. Older urban stock in Baldwin Park and Winter Park tends to have more room character but less guaranteed office space unless you specifically search for plans with a dedicated room, right? If you're buying in Baldwin Park or Winter Park, for example, at 3 or 4 bedrooms, use one exclusively as your office from day one. Do not compromise that, all right? Criteria number 2. This is the most obvious one, but trust me, people overlook it very, very much. Internet reliability is not optional for remote workers, correct? It is the single and hardest thing to fix after you have already moved. And yes, it is the most under-discussed criteria in any real estate content I've ever seen for this audience. Here is the standard you should be evaluating against, and for a solo remote worker doing video calls, file uploads, and cloud-based work, you should be looking at a minimum of 100 megabytes per second download, 20 megabytes per second upload. For a household where 2 people are working remotely simultaneously, you need to budget at least 300 megabytes per second download or more. For any role involving large file transfers, video editing, or high-frequency trading type work, gigabit fiber is worth paying for, okay? And the good news for Central Florida is that the metro is reasonably served. AT&T fiber is available in significant portions of Orange County, Seminole County, Lake County. Spectrum, you may not heard about Spectrum before, right? But Spectrum is very popular here, and Spectrum cable is essentially ubiquitous. Xfinity is available in much of the corridor. Where you need to do your homework is in the hyperlocal availability. Not whether fiber is available in the city, but whether it's available at your specific address on your specific street. Lake Nona scores particularly here, all right? It has been intentionally built as a smart city with high-speed fiber infrastructure integrated from ground up. Baldwin Park, Winter Park have strong AT&T fiber penetration in most areas. Oviedo and Winter Garden have generally solid Spectrum and AT&T options, but rural-leaning pockets of both markets can have weaker infrastructure, all right? Claremont in Lake County is the area where you must need to check address-specific availability before you commit to buying a home. I know a lot of people have issues there, so you don't want to be one more, right? And my protocol for any buyer I work with who is remote, before we write an offer, we verify fiber or cable gigabit availability at that specific address, and if they're using AT&T, Spectrum, Xfinity, Criteria number 3. Here's something that experienced remote workers know that new ones learn the hard way. You will not want to work from home every day. Not because your setup is bad, right? Because human beings need variety in their environment. They need to be productive. They need that energy of a room full of other focused people, and they need the social fabric that co-working provides. The remote workers who thrive over multi-year stints are the ones who have co-working option they actually like within, of course, a reasonable drive. Not a backup plan for emergencies, a regular part of their work week, even if only 1 or 2 days a month. Let me map the co-working landscape across Central Florida's key neighborhoods for remote workers. Downtown Orlando is your highest density co-working zone. You get Pipeline Orlando, Novo Co-working in the Angel Built building, Venture X, for example, and all established options. If you are at Baldwin Park or Thornton Park, you are 15 minutes or less from multiple quality co-working spaces. Winter Park has Co-World, which is right across from the Sunrail station and claims internet speeds 5 times faster than competing spaces, and access to a growing boutique cafe culture that doubles as informal co-working, right? So if you like coffee, go to one of those coffee shops around you. That also work. And Lake Nona has Catalyst spaces and a growing number of professional co-working options built for the medical and tech professional demographic that populates Medical City. Oviedo, you get more limited and dedicated co-working, but has strong cafe infrastructure on Elafaya Trail and Mitchell Hammock Road that remote workers regularly use for head-down workdays. Winter Garden, Horizon West are underserved for formal co-working. The serious Horizon West remote worker typically makes the 15-minute drive into downtown Winter Garden or uses Hamlin Town Center cafes, right? Claremont is the weakest co-working market of the 6. This is something that matters significantly if regular out-of-home work days are part of your rhythm. Now, criteria number 4. This one sounds obvious until you ignore it and then regret it. If you are on video calls for 4 to 6 hours a day, which is the reality for many remote worker professionals, your noise environment is your office environment. There are 2 distinct noise categories that matter for Central Florida remote workers. The first one is traffic noise. The I-4 corridor, 408, 417, 429, which takes you to Disney, generate significant ambient noise for homes within a half mile of those corridors. If you are in the community adjacent to a major expressway, the hum is constant and bleeds into calls more than you expect. The second is neighborhood character noise. Short-term rental density, proximity to theme park corridors, community events, and construction growing areas all generate environment noise that impacts your daily work life. Now, where this grades out across our 6 neighborhoods. Winter Park, Baldwin Park are the quietest urban options. Major tree canopy, residential character, minimal expressway adjacency in most areas. Lake Nona is generally quiet. The master plan layout keeps commercial and residential zones well separated. And the Medical City area has a campus feel that is conducive to focused work. Oviedo is excellent, genuinely suburban quiet, especially in the residential pockets away from Elafaya Trail. Winter Garden Historic Downtown Core is quiet, but some Horizon West communities near 429 have audible expressway presence. That's bad. Claremont is quiet and semi-rural, which is a real lifestyle asset if you want environmental peace, but it means more car dependency for everything else. Okay, keep that in mind. And if quiet environment is your number 1 criteria, Oviedo and Claremont lead, followed by Winter Park in 3rd place. Criteria number 5, here's the honest truth about remote work sustainability. Your lifestyle quality becomes your workplace quality in a way it never does for office workers. When you commuted to an office, the office provided structure, social interaction, and physical moment. When you work from home, you have to engineer all of that yourself, right? The neighborhood you live in either makes that engineering easy or hard. What remote workers need from their surroundings that office workers do not prioritize in the same way. Walkability, the ability to break up your workday with a walk to a coffee shop, a park, a lunch spot without getting in your car. Fitness infrastructure, a gym, a trail, a pool, a paddle court, something that is going to get you physical movement and social contact every day. Dining variety. You will eat out more as a remote worker because it is how you change your environment midday, right? And social infrastructure, farmers market, community events, a neighborhood that has identity that puts you among other people. On pure lifestyle and amenity density, the rankings go like this. Winter Park leads, Park Avenue, the Rollins College campus energy, walkable restaurants and cafes, the farmer market, the art scene. If lifestyle richness is your priority, Winter Park is the answer in Central Florida. Baldwin Park is second. You got the lakefront, First Friday events, walkable village centers, proximity to downtown. Downtown Orlando neighborhoods like Thornton Park and South Eola perform well as well. Lake Nona scores high on fitness and modern amenity density, but lower on walkability and cultural depth. It is a car-dependent master plan environment, as the majority here in Central Florida, right? Even if the amenities within are excellent. Winter Garden has an excellent infrastructure and Oviedo on the park as a community anchor, but it is a suburban in character. You will drive for most things. Claremont is the trade-off lifestyle choice. Lower density, more outdoor and nature oriented, better for remote workers who derive energy from outdoor recreation rather than urban amenity access. Now, last but not least, the financial criteria, total cost of ownership. The remote workers' financial position in Central Florida in 2026 is genuinely strong. And I want to make sure you understand how strong it is before you make that decision based on fear of Florida costs. All right. Florida has no state income tax, and we plan to keep it that way. Okay. So no worries about that. And if you're moving from California or New York or New Jersey, Illinois, you're immediately gaining 4 to 10% of your gross income back, depending on your bracket. On a $120,000 remote salary, that can be $5,000 to $12,000 a year back in your pocket before a single variable changes. That is your structural advantage, and it funds a meaningfully better housing choice in Central Florida than you could make in those states you're leaving. Now, the cost reality by neighborhood. Winter Park is the premium end, okay? Median home prices there are $700,000 to $900,000 range. Orange County property taxes, no CDD, but often significant HOA in the newer communities. Baldwin Park runs $600,000 to $700,000 for single family, with condos and townhomes providing more accessible entry points. Lake Nona, between $650,000 to $800,000 for new construction, and you need to budget for CDD fees in most communities. $1,500 to $2,500 a year on top of our HOA. All right. Oviedo is the value champion for quality of life. You get homes between $500,000 to $650,000 range. Seminole County taxes, which run slightly lower than Orange County and generally lower CDD exposure. Winter Garden, Horizon West, land in the $500,000 to $750,000 range, depending on the community, with CDD fees varying a lot, okay? And Claremont is the most affordable option at $400,000 to $550,000 range for comparable space with Lake County property taxes, which are the lowest of any Central Florida community. And for the remote worker who has feed themselves from a high cost market and wants to maximize, right, their financial position while upgrading their lifestyle, the value case is Oviedo or Winter Garden or Lake Nona. The school quality there is incredible. The lifestyle is very strong, and the monthly cost of ownership can be $400 to $800 a month lower depending on the community and the CDD situation. That difference compounded over 5 years is a real number. You have to take that into consideration as well. All right, quick pause here. I know I'm dropping a lot of valuable information to you. So if you feel like you don't want to do this alone, click on one of the links in the description below. Let's book a 30-minute call with me. In that call, I can get you everything you need to know to make sure you make the best decision when moving to Central Florida. And remember, my goal is to make sure you love where you live. All right, so now let's continue with this session. All right, so let me give you the summary read across all 6. If your highest priority is technology infrastructure and you work in healthcare, biotech, or tech, Lake Nona is your answer. The smart city fiber built out is genuinely better than anywhere else in this market, and the professional community around Medical City creates that social and networking fabric that is hard to replicate. If walkability and lifestyle density are your top 2, Winter Park, okay? Park Avenue, it has that cafe culture, Co-World right by the Sunrail station and the arts infrastructure. If you want to feel like you live in a real place and not a suburb, Winter Park is the highest concentration of that feeling in Central Florida. Now, if your priority is value combined with quiet and school quality, you'd have to go for Oviedo. You're going to get the Seminole County schools, suburban quiet that is genuinely conducive to focus work, reliable internet, and a monthly cost of ownership that is measurably lower than Lake Nona or Winter Park. Now, if you value urban walkability but cannot afford Winter Park, go to Baldwin Park. You got the lakefront, the community events, the proximity to downtown co-working, and a neighborhood that has a genuine social energy at a price point 15 to 20% lower than Winter Park. If you want lifestyle and family infrastructure with a strong historic downtown, Winter Garden is totally the place for you. The West Orange Trail, Plant Street, Farmers Market, this is where I would put a remote worker with kids who wants community character and good schools without paying Winter Park prices. And if your salary is lower, you want a maximum space per dollar, and you are an outdoor recreation person, Claremont, okay? The trade-off is real. You drive for almost everything, and if you need co-working more than once a month, budget the time for the Mineola or Winter Garden drive. But Claremont gives you the most home, the lowest taxes, and some of the best nature access here in Central Florida, okay? Also keep that in mind because Claremont is beautiful if you're seeking nature. All right, so if you're moving to Central Florida or already made that decision, I have to say congratulations. And why? Because here you already get more money in your pocket. We don't charge for state taxes, right? And if you stayed up to this point in this video, I really hope I could drop some value to you and help you love where you live based on all the information I provided. So if you want to grab that matrix, link is in the description below. Now, if you want to have that 30-minute call, link is also in the description below. And I want to thank you for your time, and I'll see you on the next one.